You're listening to Games from the Cellar, where we play board games and then we talk about them. I'm Steven, your host, and tonight I was joined by John, Chris, and Sam to play Lords of Vegas. Take it away, Adrian.
Lords of Vegas, designed by James Ernest and Mike Selinker, was first published by Mayfair Games in 2010. It was nominated for a 2010 Origins Award for Best Board Game. At the time of this recording, Lords of Vegas had a 7.3 rating with 7,200 ratings on Board Game Geek and has a ranking of 472. It is a 2 to 4 player light complexity game that should play in about 60 to 90 minutes. But again, gentlemen, please take your time as I'm playing Tetris tonight.
Do you plan on winning Tetris tonight?
I better.
Thank you for joining us in the cellar as we go in depth with Lords of Vegas. Okay, so on the table is Lords of Vegas.
Whoop. Personal favorite.
Personal favorite, yeah. This is the game that I think was the impetus for us to start the podcast.
Was it really?
Yeah, I mean, we'd always been talking about starting a podcast, and I think it was the last play of this that really kind of solidified the idea that, hey, we need to get off our butts and actually do this.
I remember you've been talking about it.
And you got a kicking picture of this game on our website.
Yeah, our website features a picture of Lords of Vegas.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And that was from our last game. And like I said, impetus for the podcast. So that's why it's there.
And this game has what every game needs, which is about 60 dice.
I was going to say a pretty blonde lady on the box. But,
that doesn't hurt any either.
Yeah, and like a bald dude that is pulling the strings behind the guy in the suit and the fez.
Killing the guy in the red fez. So we're playing mobsters is what this boils down to.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. I mean, it's Las Vegas real estate. What else would it be?
Right, and the idea is to build big casinos, take over other people's big casinos, horn in on their casinos, then take over their casinos, and make lots and lots of money. And by the end of the game, whoever has the most money wins and is the Lord of Vegas.
I thought it was a point track.
There is a point track.
That is not your, I guess that's not your money. You're right. It is not dollars.
So it's really, so dollars are great. They're, I think, the tiebreaker, but it's really your influence over Vegas.
I'd be pretty impressed if you
your
managed.
Lordliness.
I'd be pretty impressed if you managed to not have the most money and win by a fair amount.
So this is the Mayfair edition, and it's got big chunky cardboard. And it's got very pretty dice, and all the pieces seem to work very, very nicely. It's very easy to see what's going on the board. The rules are maybe 3 sides of the sheet of paper, 4 tops.
I mean, it's just 2 pages in the rule book with 4 pages worth of rules
and some very nice pictures taking up a fair
some
amount
very
of that
good pictures.
Space.
There's even these nice little cheat sheets that break down the rules for you.
Yep,
and
all your actions.
So with,
nice and clearly.
With my somewhat challenged eyesight, I find this game very nice because the colors are all very different enough so that I can tell the difference. Dice are big and chunky. Even the little tiddlywinks that cover some of the spaces, you can see through them. They're clear. They have the color, but you can still see through them, so nothing gets hidden. It's very easy to pick out what properties are where on the board.
And the board does a good sense of just... I've never been to Vegas, but I imagine it has this same feeling of just overwhelming glitz and glamour. And
it gives you the look. Yeah, it's a larger-than-life sort of colors on all the
very much an assault on the senses.
Yeah.
But in a good way, right? It's not like, oh, my eyes hurt.
It looks
like
Vegas.
There's a lot.
All the print is real easy to see. All the locations are in a nice orderly fashion. The text is bright colors on top of the background. So it's just from that perspective, I think this game is really well laid out.
The bills say 1941 for what it's worth.
All right, so Lords of Vegas. Who wants to give the breakdown on how the game actually works?
I'll do it because I know the least about the game. So I feel best prepared. So you have the board, and there's spaces on the board broken into various lots.
So you got various blocks of Vegas, and each block has anywhere between 6 and 9 properties. Actually, I think one of them has 12, but the biggest casino you can ever build is 9. And the idea is you want to get a bunch of these blocks. You want to find a way to purchase them, and you do that with your little chips. You draw cards, which allows you to get some places, and then you can trade. You can horse trade like in games that do that sort of thing. Or you can take over other people's casinos when you snuggle up against them. The idea is to get bigger blocks. If you get a big block of casino, it pays you more and you score more points with it. So there are 5 different colors to choose from for your casinos, and we're playing 4 tonight, but maybe you have 3 purple casinos. One of them has 3, another one has 2, and another one has 4 at different places on the board. But if they ever come up against each other, they become one casino. And what happens is if you and one of your fellow players are both in a block that has the same color, so you have dice in there that represent your blocks, and he has his dice in there that represent his blocks, they're going to become one. There's going to be contention, and you're going to roll dice. You're going to reorganize that casino, and whoever rolls the one highest die in that casino owns it. The other person doesn't get kicked out, but they don't control it. They don't get the big points from it. And that's the whole point of the game, is to establish a block, get a casino, get control of it by having the highest numbered die in there. And when everybody tries to fight you off, you manage to fight back and hold on to it for a period of time. We go around until the cards run out. The cards are essentially every property on the board. There's a few that don't get played because there is an end of game card that's near the bottom, but not at the very bottom. And there's a few cards in there that are called Pay the Strip. And anybody who has a casino along Las Vegas Boulevard, when those cards come up, gets big cash. So that's the whole point of the game.
Is it shuffled into the bottom part of the deck, or is it placed at a certain
Steven, you
height?
just did it. Where does that card go?
I shuffle it into the bottom 10.
So it could be the last card.
It could be the last card.
But apparently Steven says it's not.
I did look. It's not the bottom card.
What color is the bottom card?
The rules say to place it on top of the last quarter. I mean, you can game out. You can count the cards and game out when the game is going to end.
So we can't have that.
So I just always shuffle it in, so there's a little more variability.
I like the variability and the guessing of it because
I mean, all of the discards are displayed so that you can tell. You kind of have an idea of what your chances of a casino paying out are. So, for instance, we just started the board. There's 3 cards for the Vega Casino. That's the green casino,
green, right?
That means there's 6 opportunities left in the deck for Vega to pay out. Where on the other hand, Abalon, which is the purple casino, there's only 1 card in the discard pile, so that means that there's 8 chances for it to potentially pay out. So knowing what's in the discard pile and using that information to inform your moves going forward is pretty integral to doing well in this game. You'll find that there'll be times where you've got 5 and 6 of 3 colors that are in the discard pile, and you got like Abalon, the purple, only has 2 cards in the discard pile, and you're like, it has to pay soon. It has to pay soon.
And then it doesn't.
And it just doesn't. And it just doesn't. And then it doesn't. And then maybe like 4 turns later, you get 3 cards in a row.
They all tumble out.
And they all just tumble out. And
So the reason that pays is because you have built a casino, and I told you there's 5 different colors for your casinos. There's gray, gold, green, brown, and purple, and that's the color of the cards. So when you decide to build a casino, you pay your money. It might cost you $9 million. It might cost you 12, whatever. Just like in Monopoly, you purchase your casino, and you put one of these 5 colored tiles on it. So Albion, which is purple, if I want to, I can grab a purple tile, and I can say I'm building my casino on D7. Put it down, you put your die in there and the number that it shows, and then the next time a purple card turns over, you get millions of dollars based upon having that purple tile there. Somebody else will get a gold, whatever. So if one of the suits has not been used up, that might be the color you want to make your casino, because there's that many more cards out there. In theory, it's going to pay you more. It may be later on in the game you want to change that color because that's the way you take over somebody else's casino, but that's the whole point of the game, is that you're taking over, you're moving colors, you're building casinos any way you want, and in the meantime, you got to keep track of these cards over here on the side with how many have played out so that you've got an idea as to which colors are favored.
So I think that's something this game does well. Because there's a lot of randomness here where you're trying to see what card comes up, you're trying to get the high roll. But there's a lot of, it's all calculated. This is a very calculating game.
It's very calculated randomness.
You want to weigh the odds, right? Because it's not just what card is going to flip over. Because each card at the start of your turn, you flip over a card, it has a color, but it's also associated with one tile on somewhere on the board.
Yep.
Each location has one card, and whoever flips over that card it becomes the owner of that location. So if you've already built a casino there, oops, turns out you didn't own that spot, give it to the other person.
Yeah, so
You
there's
just told people you owned it.
There's a one of the actions is called sprawl, and essentially it allows you to pay double to expand your casino onto a space that you don't own.
Right,
that
but
nobody
you're-
owns that nobody owns at that point. But if later on that card does get drawn, then it's a freebie for whoever drew that card.
Right, and the point I'm making is that not all spaces are equal. Some
Right.
are more valuable than others based
Absolutely.
on where they are on the board.
Yeah.
Some are more valuable based on their neighboring spaces. And so maybe you want to take that risk and make that purchase and just say, I'm betting that I might draw this card, or maybe I'll just turn a profit before it comes up.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's like, I'm looking at the board, C5 has 1, the pip is 1. Giving a person a 1 in a casino that you already have 6s in, not really that big a deal, especially if you use that to bridge the gap between two casinos to make it one really large casino. So there are reasons why that's a good move, even though on the surface it doesn't seem like a good move.
And that sort of calculated risk at looking at the odds and saying, okay, eventually this bet is going to turn sour. How far can I push it
Yeah, exactly.
to come out clean on the other side?
And that's the whole the whole nature of the game. The thematics, the setting, and everything else is about managing risk, leveraging your risk in order to make money.
And
that's
I
the
think-
nature of this game.
And that's a lot of places here, right? It's am I going to give this building away? Do I need to pay out and rebrand my casinos because this color's dead? Or do I think that I can hit one more and get the jackpot?
Yep,
Right?
that's what it boils down
I think
to.
there's even an action you can take where you can actually go and gamble at somebody else's casino. But from the one game of this I've played, I don't remember anyone actually making money off of it.
And every now and again.
Well, the casino did.
Yeah, casino.
Well, the player who owned the casino did.
Yeah, and
the
it
player.
helped. There's that time where I think John needed like $2 extra. He gambled 2, he won 2, he was able to
I was
do
able to
another
build a
action.
casino
Okay,
because of that.
sure,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
I think 90% of the time you lost money.
No, it's them's the risks you take.
The house
Yep, you're
has, that odds are in the house's favor. My confidence in my strategy in this game has just been completely blown out of the water.
And why is that?
Steven does a very good job of taking score. So in my mind, I felt like I've always done well with this game. Like I can remember winning it. But then he just showed me the last 3 games, and I was at 18 and 20, where other people were up around 54 or 60. So I have to rethink my whole strategy on how I'm playing this game.
So something interesting about this game that I haven't seen in many other games is how you actually score victory points. Nominally, you score 1 point every time a card gets flipped over and you earn money from that type of casino.
If you're the boss of that color casino.
Right, sure. However, once you get to 8 points, there's a requirement because the casino has to be a certain size. First, it has to be at least 2 buildings and then 3 buildings. And by the time you get to the very end of the board, it's 5, 6, 8 buildings. And so it's not, you stop just needing to get lucky. You have to start planning. And even just the one game I've played, I remember there were times where I looked at the board and I said, all right, I'm going to cut this guy off at the legs because I don't want him to score points.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got money, but he didn't score points.
Maybe
and
that's why
That's why you do poorly,
I
Chris.
did poorly, because it was normally me that you're cutting the legs out.
Yeah,
from
we,
under.
we definitely reorganized some casinos out from under you
Well,
to score
and-
points.
Yeah, I'm remembering that now.
And
Wow,
let's be
this
honest,
is-
Chris is the
this
real
is a-
force at this board. The 3 of us need to fight to keep Chris from winning this game.
Absolutely.
tonight.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
If,
reason
if
he
I
has
was a betting
census-
man, which I am, my money's on John to win this game.
My money
I think
is
you
on
crazy.
Chris to win this game, so I'm going to fight against him as hard as I can.
I'm gonna win. Just I'm calling
The
it
dark
now.
horse.
Calling it now.
We're
All right.
anteing up, right? What's the ante up for
One
this game?
Oreo cookie.
I didn't bring any Oreo
You
cookies.
better go.
Don't worry, we'll take your turn.
I
You'll be
have
fine.
I have a container right here. Actually, I just discovered. Where are your guys' Oreo cookies?
Hey, what's that over there? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get
play
into
some game.
Lords of Vegas. And when we get back, I'll tell you how I won.
Because why would you make an expansion for such a perfect game, Steven? That's the question I ask.
I think the better question is, how did I win?
By a smidge, but yes, you won. You are the Lord of Vegas.
I think going through from the mentality of the game, I think they made an expansion because they were hoping it would turn a profit.
That might be it.
I think they put that 90 space on the board, and nobody could get to it with just the base game.
And it was driving everybody
It was
crazy.
driving everyone nuts.
So they gave you a little bit of a leg up.
And I guess that's what allows people to get to 90, which is an instant win. The game immediately ends if somebody gets to 90
reaches
points.
90, which we did not do.
No.
But we had a real good game. And, this, for some reason, and I'm kind of jaded. I'm an old man. I've played a lot of games. This one, there's always kind of a little flutter in my heart thinking, don't take that last silver tile. I need one silver tile. That's all I need to be a contender in this game. And sure enough came around that I actually had 2 silver tiles, and I was able to put 2 in and make that much more of a valuable casino and hopefully fight off anybody's attempt to try and re-roll it. So I didn't win, but that was a real important part of me breaking
For the
even.
record, I believe the order here was Steven won.
40 points,
John came in second.
36 points,
Then Chris and I tied in points,
40.
but Chris beat me on the money because I had just finished taking my turn. So I spent all my money.
You were trying to, but you were trying to improve your position.
Well,
right.
It was
sure.
completely. I mean, I would have done the exact same thing in your
Oh
position.
yeah, I'm just.
I would have been throwing money at the wall, just trying
yeah,
to
And you
get.
had a legit shot at second place. I don't think you could have reached first, but you certainly had a shot at second place. So you had a shot to go 2 spots up.
He couldn't take the gold casino from
I've
me.
never had a shot at gold.
And so
Yeah.
that
The big gold casino, I never had a shot.
We
The
all
tiny
kinda
one, I
missed the
failed.
Target on that. We let that one.
So Stephen managed to
Slide out of
catch
the
a
way.
hold of all the golden tiles early. Well, not all of them, but all of them were gone, and he had control of the big casino. And there were two smaller casinos.
Yeah,
maybe
I
three.
parked 2 gold tiles so that I could
So he chewed up the
use
rest
them
of the
later.
gold tiles, right? So by keeping control of that scarce element, it kept you in control of this big casino in the middle of the board.
And there was one space where I kept rolling against him to try and take control so that I could either hold it or reorg it to something else and then use those tiles elsewhere, and it just never happened. I lost this roll off to you 5 times?
like 3 times because
It felt like more than that.
it felt like that, but it was 3 times
Because you
because
tied.
there were.
There were a couple times you tied. and then
Rolled
you-
again,
Yeah.
and rolled again, and then you end up losing.
I
It's
got
tough.
sabotaged by the dice. I mean, literally, when we were
So-
fighting for that one casino,
You
Right,
had,
so-
you
so
had a
dice-
weighted die, and it
you-
was weighted to 1.
You
It
cut
was
in on me
horrible.
early and kind of had me snookered, and then I got a couple of lucky rolls, and you weren't able to beat those rolls back. So I was able to hold on to 2 separate locations because of that. So that turned out to be really valuable.
I was happy
Yeah.
that I beat 20 points. But
I spent
it was a slim chance. At
I
the
spent
end
the
that I
whole
could've
back
won.
half of the game, it felt like rolling on the same 2 locations and not getting anywhere.
And not
Yeah, the
getting
problem
to
was
work.
is that the 3 of us were rolling against each other, and he had that whole
I-
casino.
I-
it only got re-rolled, I think, just one time. Once it had turned to 7 tiles.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
I
I-
re-rolled it twice, but it couldn't flip it.
Well, Steven did a really good job locking that down. That was well played.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to argue.
It was a good job.
Tell me how great I am. Keep going.
It was a good job.
The
You did a good
question
job
is, how did
managing
you
the
only
tiles.
win
and-
by 1 space on the scoring
That is
track?
actually
I mean,
a
you
better
should have
question.
crushed that.
Yeah,
You should
I-
have.
So, in some ways, you sort of lost.
I mean, take it how you
He's
will.
a semi-lord, a
the
demi-lord.
the scoreboard
He's the
shows
Duke.
that I'm on top. I did have the highest score, regardless of what you think may or may not. The margin may or may not have been.
You did indeed win the game.
So
It's kind of hard
yeah,
to argue
the
that
game
point.
Was, yeah, I won the game. The thing that could have screwed me in the end, just based on some lucky rolls, is I was all in on that one casino.
Yeah, and that one color.
And you guys, I mean, I can't say that you locked out silver because I had 1 in silver and then everyone else had at least 2.
It was weird. We had one green and one purple out there for the longest time.
Right.
Well, I
Gold
kept
and silver chewed up.
thinking, oh, there's no point investing in green or purple. They're mostly gone, and it just
Kept on coming
looking
up.
back, I thought that for most of the game, and somehow they just kept, but nobody built into them.
Yeah. Well, when they were at 7, the other ones were down around like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
It just
Or even 3 or 4 at the beginning
So,
of the game.
for,
It seemed
for
like an obvious
context,
choice.
there are 5 colors of casinos that you have to invest in to earn points and money. And 2 of those 5 colors, purple and green, nobody invested in at all.
Yeah, there were like
Because-
three
For the whole
spots
game.
on the whole board.
They started the game with 3 cards down each.
Yeah, they started the game with
Instead of
3
2.
out of 9 cards
Yeah.
down. And so Chris, I think, built a purple casino, and I built a green casino, and just a minimum investment that kind of paid out many times its worth over the game because nobody else.
Nobody else was there. So
Bothered.
that was money you got solo, while the rest of us, anytime those
But just
cards
a little
came
bit
up.
more investment there, we could have raked in the points.
Yeah.
But I think what happened is a couple times I moved in on you. I had bought gold
On John.
and moved in on John,
Mm-hmm.
and then I freed up gold, and Steven came
Steven
in and
grabbed
built
those,
gold because that
took
was
those away.
the least amount of
And-
cards that were out there.
And not only was he dominating the gold tiles to choose from, but that block was kind of locked out. I could have put a green or a purple in there, but it kind of would have been pointless because of, and it wasn't just the number that was there, but the shape. 2 of the rows were completely locked out from the strip. So I might have been able to build something that was 2, maybe 3 big, even though I didn't hold the tiles behind it. So there could have been another war there, but I think all of us had enough contention in other casinos that just wasn't valuable ground. I needed to take that casino away from you if I was going to get a shot. And
how many
I took my shot and just couldn't
squares
do it.
in that was that the 9 block?
Yeah, that's a 9 block.
How many in
It was a
squares?
12 block.
How many
Excuse me,
squares?
right,
in
that's
that
the
12
12.
did you have chips in there?
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the 4.
I had 2, I think. in
I had
there,
none.
but I
I
couldn't
was
get gold.
never-
I came late.
Yeah.
I didn't pull anything in that block. It was never an
So
option.
you,
very-
so
I
you
was
had 8 of
very
the 12,
spread out.
and, right? And the way they were separate, because if I had been able to get a gold tile, I would have been able to come in with a 6 and taken control of it, and it just couldn't happen because the golds did not free up. And at one point, Sam had a chance to free up the golds. Would have been a kind of a long shot for him, but at that point, I might have had a shot. But Steven made it a point to show that
I don't think I ever had a chance at freeing up the gold because I couldn't beat Steven in the roll-off.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
so-
saying. If you
not
had
to repeat,
freed that
not
up.
to repeat myself, but I had like a 50-50 shot, and it never panned
Yeah.
out, even though I took it multiple times.
So I kept looking at that. There were a couple of times where I almost reorged it because I was the boss. I could have done that.
yeah,
But it would have cost me a lot of money to then build 2 other casinos to keep those in my control.
Right.
Because I wanted to make that 2 a 3.
yeah.
I was either going to turn it green or purple.
right
whatever.
because you would have moved a couple more points up that scoreboard if you had done that.
But I kept looking at your money, and you never had enough money to do all of that. So I just was like, I'm going to let it ride.
That's the point.
And if he does roll to reorganize, he doesn't then have enough money to remodel to get
Right,
change
so
the
he
color.
can't kick you out.
So I just was like, I'm going to let it ride. There was one time I got nervous, and he had all the money he needed, but he rolled like really bad, and I
that's
just
how
was
it
like,
goes.
I was like, great.
So you roll a ton of dice in this game, especially if you get because you have to be aggressive. You have to go for it. At the end, I was going for it because I was that close, and there's just you would 4 dice. I had 2. I had to roll a higher die than you, going 2 against 4, which is a real long
It's
shot.
a tall order, but
But
it
you
it
gotta do what
happened
you
in
gotta
the
do.
last game.
It just happens, and you take your swing, and you hope for the best, and it works out. But
Well, you
in
gotta
this
figure- I
case,
mean,
it couldn't.
The odds are better than they first appear, right? Because you're trying to roll a 6 on one of your dice. And if you roll a 6, then if the other guy rolls 1 6, you both have to re-roll, and now your odds are 50-50.
Yeah, but his other 3 rolls. So the way the roll-offs work is if he rolls a 6, a 5, a 1, and a 1, and I roll a 6, we both re-roll our 6s. And if we roll a 3 and a 2, his old 5 stays put, and he gets control of the casino. So on that first roll of his 4 dice, it's not just about rolling a 6. If he rolls a 5 or a 4, then any ties that happen have to re-roll again, and suddenly that 5's a pretty solid place that you need to fight your way down.
Yeah.
So it's tough rolling, but that's the nature of the game, and that's why I'm saying. Earlier I said there's there's a little bit of a butterflies in your belly when you're playing this game because you realize, well, I'm in a great spot right now, but boy, this could change on a moment's notice. 2 players decide to roll against me, and I lose. Suddenly, you're going from top of the town to the guy that's picking up a couple of bucks when the cards show up.
Yeah, not only that, it could be that when the first guy re-rolls it, it costs 11 to do that reorg, and then when it gets back around to you and you want to take control back, it might cost 30. So your opportunity cost goes way up.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate games that have that element where there's a core component that affects multiple things. In this case, each casino that you build has a die attached to it. It's a number from 1 to 6, and that determines how much money you earn from that casino. And also, whoever has the highest die there controls that casino.
And they're the only ones that can get
They're
points.
the only ones that get points from
Right,
it.
they only get
and
points.
it also determines how expensive it is for you
To
for a
re-roll
player to
that
pay
casino.
to re-roll that whole casino. That whole casino being all of the attached casinos of that color. So,
And sometimes, so at one point in that set, I had 2 5s, and Steven still owned it with 6. But with 2 5s in there, whenever a card came up, I was getting $10 million, which is a pile of money in this game. I mean, that's
a good
build a
amount.
casino kind of money.
It's a good amount.
So I'm like, okay, so I don't want to let him get too far ahead of me, but at the same time, do I really want to re-roll 2 5s? Because they could go to a 2 and a 1, and then suddenly my cash cow walks away.
and also it's more expensive for you to even roll.
Right, to go after that re-roll. My 2 5s are costing me $10 million plus everybody else's dice in order to re-roll. So I mean, it's one of those things where you got to kind of it's a very tactical game. You got to kind of, you can come in with a strategy, but you got to kind of react to how things turn out on the board. And I think for me personally, a game like this where you have to make a decision before the luck hits is a much more dynamic, much more exciting play. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy Lords of Vegas. We get this out maybe once every 6 months. I mean, it's not a game that you play 2 or 3 times in a night.
I think within the past 6 months, we've played it 3 times.
Okay, so a little bit more than that.
It had a long time on the shelf before we touched it.
And then we pulled it out again, and I think we were like, wow, this really is way better than we remember. We should be playing this more often, and we've kind of gotten to it. And now that we're doing the podcast, we're like, well, we got to put this one on the list because, man, it's just a favorite game. I mean, it's something that we keep coming back to and really enjoying. So,
According to my stats, the last time we played it up until recently was 2017. And then we rediscovered it May of 2022. And then we played it in
8 months
July
ago.
twice. And that last time in July is, like I said at the top of the show, was the impetus for us actually getting off our butts and starting the podcast. And I think, what are we on, episode 16, 17?
yeah, recording 16 or 17 at this point.
So it was time for us to circle back around.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, honestly, of all the games that we've played, and we've played some really good ones, I put this in an echelon that's like a Hall of Fame level for us. Because this game,
Top shelf.
it's a game that if anyone at the table suggests it, there's a really good chance that
Everybody's
going
in.
to be on the table.
Yeah.
Like, there are other games that we have that, oh, hey, how about we play Splendor? Okay, half of us are going to be like, sure. The other half of us are going to be like, maybe we split off and play another game.
Yeah.
I mean, Wings for the Baron is another one where if anyone suggests it, we're going to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a destination game. It's the kind of game where you're talking Thursday or Friday, you're talking about, hey, how about this Monday we pull out Lords of Vegas?
Yeah.
And
I'm
everybody
kinda curious,
kind of wets
though.
their whistle for it.
Is this going to be the year where we play each game one time? How many times are we going to go back and play a game if we're not? If we're not doing the podcast.
I mean, the podcast is set up in a way that if we want to revisit a game, we can absolutely revisit a game.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like, the conversation we're having now is completely different than the conversation we had back in July. So, I mean, just the emergent nature of the narrative of the games that we play, most of the games anyway, some of them are going to be the same regardless. Like Splendor,
There's just not that much variability in the game.
Yeah. But, the way... Yeah, I won this time. I won last time. No, John won last time.
I've actually won this once because historically this has been a game that I have not been good at all.
You're right.
But
John won the last one.
Samuel won the last one.
I thought I won the last one. Beginner's luck.
But the point is, this is a game that even if we played it 3 months from now, I think it would still be good content because we'd have a completely different narrative about
Yeah.
how the game
I want to get some new dice, though.
Not only that, we do have...
You can have the greatest strategy in this game, but if you roll ones, there's
But
nothing you can do.
them's the
Yeah,
goal,
and any given Sunday. I mean that's what I was saying earlier is in a game where everything is preset and everybody's playing it in exact, if you're trying to hone your skills to get 3 extra points, that's just not the same thing as a game where you have to take legitimate risks and you sometimes need to swing for the fences. And we were counting cards as we got down to the end of this. It's like, okay, that thing's going to come up real soon, and we cheat a little. We change the end game. We put that last card randomly in the last 10 cards, and I think the rules say you're supposed to count 10 and then put the final strip card in. So we make it a little bit more unpredictable at the end when we do that. So we're counting the cards, and it's like, okay, it's now or never, because when that strip pays with that last card, I need another casino on the strip. So I was taking my shot to try and take that casino away from Steven, even though my chances of doing that were pretty doggone small. But I had to take that swing because that swing would have made the difference. And that's what I enjoy in a game. Splendor doesn't bring that.
If we had ended that game 7 turns earlier, it would have looked so much different.
I have to say that I think is almost
And we could have, because it was third last card.
yeah. I think that's a criticism I have of Lords of Vegas is that I don't think there's ever.
All right, hold on. You have a criticism?
I do.
Get out.
Okay. Dang.
He is the Lord of Vegas.
He is. Well,
Join us
all right.
next week when Chris, Steven, and I will be playing.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Samuel. Turn off his mic.
So it is very much a game where you take risks, right? Where you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to try something, and that's the thing is you have to try something, even if the odds aren't in your favor. That's some
You've got to swing for the fence.
You've got to swing for the
occasionally.
fences. Well, I don't think it's occasionally. I think it's very difficult to play safely in this game. I don't think there's...
Well, you can play safely.
I
You're
think
just
the
not
three
going
of
to
us
succeed.
learned a valuable lesson is to not let somebody control all of one color.
Okay, I'm not saying there isn't strategy and depth here, right? I'm saying that compared to a game like Splendor, right, where if you look at it as a spectrum, where Splendor, you know exactly what the outcome of everything's going to be, and you're just reacting to other people's choices, and everything's, very controlled. Lords of Vegas is kind of the opposite of that, where it's
chaotic and it's beautiful.
chaotic, but it's
flinging the dice.
and it's fun, but it's all the choices are pretty much the same color. You're taking a chance, right? And that's fine.
We're all looking funny at Sam.
Yeah, they're all looking funny.
I need you to elaborate on
Yeah.
it. They're
Okay.
all the same color.
So if you consider the spectrum of options to be different colors, right, where Splendor's a very nice muted blue color, and
Cold. Yeah.
calculating,
Yeah.
and as you get more chaotic and random and risky, you turn into this lovely red color.
Caliente.
Lords of Vegas is very red,
Yeah, I agree.
and that's not bad.
I agree. It's a seat of your pants kind of game.
It's very seat of your pants, and that's not a bad thing. But it is fairly monochrome in that regard, right?
So
Because of the nature of the game, there's just Steven found a way to secure his position.
and I'll be honest with you, I think Steven was playing a very different game than I was tonight because he could play defense and be a little bit more reserved in his actions than I could.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's not many ways to play defense in Lords of Vegas. Right?
And I want to make it clear.
Six,
I want to make it clear. Y'all didn't let me have control over the gold casino tiles. I manipulated it to where I had control of the gold casino tiles.
Oh, yeah.
That was
you did.
That was an absolute strategy that I used. Chris is over here suggesting that we just don't let him do it next time. No, I made that happen.
But I think if we had been aware or watching
Even if you
for
had
that,
been, if you had been aware, hindsight's 20/20. But it would have been a different
If we
color.
hadn't let him do it, he wouldn't have done it.
That's right.
I mean, of course. I mean, but obviously he got on top of those gold tiles in a hurry, and he
it was
managed to
it
mark
was a
that
clever
position.
strategy. It was a good way to play defense. And there's certainly a layer of depth there that I didn't appreciate going into the game.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you've only
next
played
time-
twice.
Next time I'll be keeping an
Right.
eye out for that.
But
My point is, in terms of like actively interacting with the game, you were playing defense, but you're doing it in a very like hands-off way.
My point wasn't that he was playing defense. It's that he could play and needed to play more conservatively because he was in a position where that he needed to minimize risk. When you're out ahead, when you've got the big casino, and when you have control of the big casino, you want to play conservatively because that maximizes your return.
Well, not only that, but why in God's green earth would I re-roll a casino that I'm in control of?
Well, exactly.
So I didn't have to take risks.
Exactly.
Right.
And
And
that's
burn money doing it.
I put myself in positions to not have to take. It's not that I chose not to take risks. So
that's
I wanna,
the point I'm trying to
I want
make.
to back up just a second, because all right, so yeah, there is a lot of risk in die rolling and just chance that happens in this game, but it's all calculated. Like nothing is just completely. You don't pull a card off the top that says, "Oh, half your casino
burns down.
burns
Yeah,
down."
That's right.
Lose a turn
Yeah.
and half a casino. There's none of that kind of stuff. It's the chance is there because you're having to roll the dice to gain control of the casinos and the squares, but
There's also
you're directing that chance.
Right, and whether you like it or not, you're playing the odds that you're making that cold decision, but the dice are going to call the tune when all is said and done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Chris.
No, but I was saying is that the chance factor is the cards that you're drawing. Because if you're nowhere near that casino, you
Then
don't
you're
have
not
much
in.
options
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I never touched the
but
that big
you-
golden
I'm
casino.
fighting on that one
You
with
had,
John.
but
and
you had
it
the
was three.
opportunity, and you did. You made the brown casino.
Right.
I mean, just because you can't be in the one casino doesn't mean you don't go and make another one.
And it doesn't mean you can't cut a deal. There's nothing in the rules that says you cannot trade a parking lot for one for another.
That's not important. The point I was trying to make is that this is a very seat of your pants game, and Stephen found a very effective way to add a layer of calculation and control to that.
Yeah.
Risk
and
mitigation.
props. It was a good strategy.
And I didn't mean to suggest anything other than that. It was a good strategy.
But
You dominated.
at the end of the day, you still had to take risks,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter how well secured your casino, somebody can still pay and roll. And
Yeah, the risk that I took is when
Yeah.
you guys paid to re-roll my casinos.
yeah, and there's no getting away from that, and that's fine. That's not a bad thing, but it's a certain flavor.
Yeah,
And that flavor is it's just a lot.
yeah.
Right?
I think part of it is also in this game, control of casinos didn't flip-flop as much
Not
as
much
they
at
have
all.
in
Oh, and not
previous
for
games.
not for want of trying.
So, like, the last time we played in July, when Samuel won pretty handily, I think all of the big casinos changed hands at least 2 or 3 times.
Oh yeah, it was going back and forth like
I mean,
crazy.
you didn't know.
So did you have that gold one from the very beginning and hold it the entire time?
You started with it.
I started with it.
and then I built a 6 onto it.
and you
took
took
it.
that.
Well, I
And-
took it
and-
from you first.
Yeah.
And then
Right, and then
Stephen-
you took the other one from me as well,
And
and I was able to fight my way
Yeah.
back into it.
So
Yeah.
I think the lack
That's a
of changing
lack of
hands
me getting
there
chips.
did kind of have something to do with how the game. Obviously, it had something to do with how the game went
And how
But I
it
think-
felt. But yeah.
But I think also in terms of money
Mm-hmm.
and how the things paid out, that had an impact, right?
I mean, I wasn't making the most money round to round.
you
No, I
certainly
agree.
had a stack of cash.
I had a stack of cash because
Couple
I
of
wasn't
times,
having
yeah.
to pay to
'Cause-
re-roll
Right,
casinos.
Right, you weren't spending the money on stuff that we were.
But I think I was probably, as far as like from my turn back to my turn, I think I was making probably second or third as far as money
As
went.
far as money is concerned.
Because I think Chris
and gold
John
never
was,
came up.
And John was making more money than I was,
Yeah.
and then and there were turns where Chris was pulling 20 and 22,000 or $22 million, and all I'm getting is like 3 because I had the one.
And gold did not
Yeah.
come up.
And
so
gold
so
didn't
you were
come up
doing
until
great.
then.
You were doing great on points, but your gold cards were not bringing you money.
Yeah.
But the issue was is he had 3 in there, and you and I each had like 1. So
I had
it
2,
was
yeah.
our odds to take it.
Yeah.
So we avoided rolling against that, and we kept on rolling against each other.
Right, and you guys were all rolling against each other on the little onesies in the corners that I just happened to not get involved in. So I was very pleased to see you guys spending your money burning those in battles that I didn't need to be a part of. And in the meantime, I was able to kind of shore up my position in the one that we were fighting over, the silver in the corner, by buying 2 casinos simultaneously, including the one that took it over. So suddenly I had 4 dice and you had 2, instead of each of us having 2 and you having the high roll. So I was able to kind of scare you off. It costs more to re-roll, and obviously if you've got twice as many dice, you're going to probably do better at it.
I had 2 chips in that square. And you had, I think, 5, 4, something at least.
Yeah, in fact, I think I had another one that I never ended up using.
Well, you sprawled into it, too. One of those was a sprawl.
No, I did not sprawl.
Sam, I think, was the only one that sprawled.
Sam that was sprawling.
I sprawled a couple times.
Yeah. So there are ways to take those kind of bigger rolls. But, Sam, you and I walk into a casino in Vegas. I'm walking to the craps table, and you're walking to the blackjack table. Because that's the nature of the gamer you are, is you want to sit there and see those cards and say, I take a card on a 10, I don't take a card on a 13. And you're far more calculating. That's the nature of the way you play all of these games, the nature of the way you play Splendor. I mean, you can hear when we have these discussions, you sit there and say, well, the obvious thing is anytime you're picking up chips in Splendor, that's a turn that you're wasting that you should be doing something else. And you can hear this in the previous podcast because you're a much more calculating gamer. So a game like Lords of Vegas kind of takes you out of your element. It's like, ooh, I have to take chances where I don't know the answers to.
Well, I'm not sure that's. I mean, it's mostly accurate. I do like to play a calculating game. I suppose I don't necessarily feel out of my element in Lords of Vegas, right? It's still calculating. You still have to calculate what gives me the best odds here, right? And that's fine. But sometimes I don't want to take a gamble.
In this game, you have to take a gamble.
And in this game, you have to take a gamble.
Yeah, you can spend a turn not doing anything to build up some cash, maybe, but you aren't going to be able to do that for very long and be in a position to compete.
When we play this again, if I remember what happened tonight, then I will certainly play a better game because I have some ideas. Steven has shown us a good strategy. There's a couple other ideas I have, but there will still be gambles that need to be taken. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's fun. That's exciting. You get to roll the dice. You get to groan. You get to celebrate. You get to, cheer when the card you need flips over and you make a bunch of cash and earn a bunch of points. And that's fine if you're looking for something that's, high stakes and exciting and I assume feels like going to Vegas.
Ish.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. This is much more of a seat of your pants play. To some extent, you're a victim of fate. Things are going to happen, and any given Sunday, some team is going to beat another team more or less by dumb luck. And frankly, if you look at the designer is James Ernest, and you look at all of his games, and all of them have crazy themes and crazy amounts of luck and crazy things happening. It's just the nature of his design.
I mean, there are things don't get me wrong, there are things here that I really like. I really like the fact that even if you lose control of the casino as a whole, your opponent doesn't actually have a way to take control of your tiles from you.
Right. And you got a shot at taking it back.
You're still involved in that casino. Yep. You can still take it back. You always gain more control of more tiles as you pull cards. That always happens.
As the game progresses, the board opens up, and you're gonna have as many opportunities as the next player.
Yeah, it's
like everyone has equal opportunity. Some of those opportunities just might be a little better than others.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to get locked out of the game, in the sense that you can't interact with it. I think it would be pretty easy to get locked out of the game and go, well, there's no way for me to come back here.
Yeah. And this was a real tight game, too.
This was, but I know when you were looking at the scores before, that's not always the case.
Hasn't always been the case. But in this particular play, we were all within one or two point.
Yeah, I mean,
I say points, but
spots on the track.
Yeah, I mean, Chris and I were only 4 spots back.
3
from
the win.
Yeah, from the win.
Yeah.
So it was pretty close.
Yeah.
If a couple dice for
and at the end of the game, there was a couple if I had been my one die had been able to take over that one casino,
Right.
I would have
So-
been able to hold it
and-
till the end of the
and-
game.
And as you
Scored
get
it
closer
twice.
to the end of the game, you realize I need to take more risk. It's
And-
gonna suck, but I need to take more risk because it might not. So at that point, that's when you're swinging harder, trying to get it over the fence. You're stealing second base. You're doing risky things naturally because you need to find a way to manufacture
Right,
those
and-
last couple of points.
The thing is, though, it wouldn't have been him taking that risk. It would have been you.
No, it could have been him too.
No. He did. It wasn't his turn.
No, when it's
You
his
paid-
turn.
but you paid for that reroll.
When it's his turn.
and
When it's his
okay,
turn,
but we're not talking
he
about
gets
what
the
could
choice.
have.
No. What I'm saying is don't look at one particular situation in this particular play. In a game like this, as it gets towards the end of the game and you realize, wow, I am 3 spaces behind, and that's kind of a long way in this game. This is a game where you can do lower percentage returns, riskier things in an attempt to shoot the moon. This game gives you an opportunity to do that. There's nothing like that in a game like Splendor or Race for the Galaxy where you can sit there and say, boy, I really hope that I pull something off here. It's not the nature of those plays. They're a more methodical, win more points every single turn through the entire game.
Right. So what I'm pointing out is that there's a nature of that chaos, that opportunity for sudden swings and crazy turns, is that on your turn, you can re-roll and Chris can roll a 6, and now he has control of the casino.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the game.
Well, if I'm
And
desperate
that's
for those points,
fine
that's
because
my
that's
choice
part
to
of-
make.
That's fine. It's part of the risk you took.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody is going to like a game where that sort of crazy upheaval is possible.
And that's
Some people are going to curse and moan because it's random and it's crazy and it doesn't always feel good.
And right, so long way around the barn, we've come to the same conclusion: is that this is a game that I think some people are not going to be comfortable with because it is a seat of your pants game with risk that gets resolved after you make your decision instead of before you make your decision. You need to sit there and you need to throw it out there. It's like a 15-year-old asking a girl out. You're going to throw the line out there and you're going to hope she does not destroy you with her answer. You've got to be able to go out there, take your shot, and hope that things go your way. And that's the nature of this game. You're going to say, I'm going to have Steven roll 4 dice against my 2, and I hope that I roll a better number than you. And you know what? You're probably not. But you take your shots, and every now and again, that works. That's the nature of the game.
It worked a lot in the last time we played because, like we said, there were a lot of casinos changing hands. We had an 8-tile casino in the last game that switched hands like 4 times. But, I had the 7-tile one that once I gained control of it, it never changed
We were never
hands.
able to fight you back off.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was that one time in this game. It was great. It's like, all right, this is why John doesn't go to casinos. Because you said, all right, I'm going to do this roll. We rolled it, and you go, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. And it was like, are you waiting for us to say, oh, don't worry about it. Take your turn back? At that point, it's not happening.
Yeah.
But you were very... Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I should have done that one. I should have done that.
that was that. Trust me, I was flogging myself, not you guys. That was just I had enough money to do one or the other. I picked one, and when it doesn't work out, it's real easy to say you should have done the other one instead.
Yeah.
But
I think we had seven gambles. I think it was, and you had
and usually we do a
Horrible.
couple of gambles in a game, maybe.
yeah. You did 10 twice in one, right?
Yeah,
Typically
no,
you lose.
they worked out for me because I looked at the board. I was like, well, I
And I
need
got-
something to change, so
I got
I'll
paid
gamble.
a double at one point.
$1.
Yes, for granted, but still, I mean, it just, I mean, that's stuff that just.
I don't think
we usually don't
did you
do
lose
gambles that much.
Did you lose a gamble at one point?
Yeah, I lost a gamble.
Okay, I was going to say, but
And I
we-
lost a gamble, and you lost a gamble.
I didn't.
I thought you lost.
I don't think I
one.
lost.
No, you
'cause
lost one to me.
You lost
Lost
one to
one,
John.
okay. I
got
but then
some
you
money.
won 20 from him.
That's
you
right.
won a big
that's
one.
right.
tens,
Yeah.
Good old gambling. I didn't gamble at all.
Again, because you didn't have
I didn't have to.
because
The
you were in a
winning
position
strategy-
where you could
Take-
minimize
take
risk
notes,
in order
kids.
to maintain
Gambling
the status
is not
quo.
a winning strategy.
Gambling is a strategy that you take in certain situations
get
that come
desperate.
up in certain situations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't have a gambling bone in me. The thought of going to Vegas and spending money at a casino makes no sense to me at all. I'd rather sit in my hotel room on Amazon and buy something that actually shows up when I pay money for it. So it's a different nature of the beast. But in a game like this, I like it when you have to make your decision and then see how it turns out on the roll of the dice or the draw of the card instead of the other way around. That post-decision luck, I think, is really valuable for me personally.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're at that point where we give this one a rating. Who would like to go first? Well, you know what? I won. I'm going to go first.
That's an easy decision then.
I am the Lord
So are we using
of
the
Vegas.
BGG ratings scale, Stephen?
You know, we've gone this far. We may as well.
Let's go with that one then.
All right, so the BGG scale, it's 1 to 10, and it measures things like how you feel about playing a game at a particular moment.
Right.
I think is like one of the best ways. And there's like if it's a good game or not, but it doesn't
So it's
really
your child's 5th birthday party,
Yeah.
but you leave because you'd rather play a game.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I love Lords of Vegas. It's a lot of fun in a box. We've played, like I said, we've played a lot of games, and there are a handful that if somebody suggests, we almost invariably throw it on the table. Like I said, Lords of Vegas, Wings for the Baron,
El Grand.
El Grande when we have 5 people.
Yeah.
Samuel just gave a really, really big groan. So
I do not like El Grand.
I don't like racing games either.
3 going into Castillo.
So yeah, there are only a handful of games that meet those criteria where it'll come out and we'll play it whenever it's suggested. So for that alone, as a Games from the Cellar Hall of Fame game, as I will call it, I don't think there could be a better place for this to be than right up there at the top of the list of 7s.
All right. Special reserve game.
Yes.
All right. Well, I came in second place. So it seems to me you throw the bones, you get a 7, and you get paid. And that's the Lords of Vegas is just a great 7. Throw those dice, hit your 7. Always a good game, just a special game. It's the kind of game that you talk about a week before you sit down to play it, and you're looking forward to it the whole time. And by the way, as far as I'm concerned, from a production quality, this is just where it should be. This was not a terribly expensive game when it came out. It's got everything you need.
Yeah, back in
It does the job.
2010, Mayfair knew what was up. They
Yeah.
they really put this game together well.
You know, I rolled craps tonight. It was crappy rolls.
And that's the only reason you lost, Chris, because of your rolls.
Because of your
I think I
crap
could have done much better.
rolls.
I lost a lot of money on the table with my dice rolls.
You know what,
So-
John? I challenge you. If I'd rolled all 6s on every die tonight, I think I'd have won.
I think you would have.
How many times did you see me roll a 6? How many
I
times
wasn't
did you see
counting.
me roll a 1?
I wasn't counting.
A lot.
A lot.
You
A
rolled
lot
a
more
lot
than the
of ones.
6s.
You rolled 11
Disproportionately.
ones. I was counting.
Yeah. But that's
That
the
was when I was
nature of the
fighting
game.
for these two, not against you.
Yeah.
But, if you want my rating, if I had rolled better, it probably would have been higher. But now it's a gutterball 7.
And I think that's fair, right? I mean, that's the nature of the game. There's a lot of meat here. There's a lot of depth. You have to do a lot of, am I going to take that? Am I going to take this chance? What's the best way for me to spend this money? But the catch is, that's not true. You don't have to do that. You can just wing it and see what happens and decide you're going to spend a bunch of money at once and roll all the dice you can. And just the nature of the game is sometimes that works.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree. And
That's-
I think a big part of me taking second place was taking a lot of risks that
They
luckily
worked for
enough
you.
of them paid off.
yeah. And I mean, everybody's going to be taking those risks in this game, as we already covered. There's no way not to. But it is... Okay, even Steven took risks, right? He had a good strategy, but it's not like it was devoid of risks. And even then, if one of us had managed to roll slightly better, his whole game plan would have had to shift.
Did you lose a casino at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I lost a couple.
Well, and he could have lost the gold and come back and gotten it back again. So even if he had lost that, he still owned the gold tiles unless somebody had enough money to reorg that monster machine at 5 gold per or $5 million per. Yeah. So he very easily could have just rolled it back the next turn. So
and we could get like way into the weeds here talking about like how secure his position was.
7 tiles, 35 million. Reorganize it to green. Who wants it then?
Yeah,
you're still going to get your points at the
end
end of the game.
And it's all still the same color, and he could take it right back even in green. At that point, the color doesn't matter a whole lot.
And we like, you can make your position more secure, but somebody can still steal it from you with a lucky roll of die. That's just how the game works. It didn't happen to Steven, and good for him, right?
I mean, that's the beauty of it. It didn't happen with that casino, but it's happened before where you got 1 die in a 7 casino with 2 or 3 other people that have 4 and 3 die.
Yeah.
And you can roll that 6 and they roll garbage and suddenly you're the king of the world because the die went your way.
Believe me how great it was when you guys both looked up and said your high roll was like a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
So I rolled a 1. And it's like, and then you re-rolled it, and then he got a 6 and you got a 5.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with 1 million.
And look, then just human nature is people enjoy rolling dice, right? There's an element of uncertainty there. There's excitement.
Okay, but you're going to say the word "but" in just a second.
Well, I was going to. Now I'm not.
But
people enjoy rolling dice.
But
I didn't say
But I don't really have a but here. I don't know. Just people enjoy rolling dice. It's fun. There's a lot of money spent on rolling dice.
So here's the question I'm going to ask you, Sam. Do you think you have as much fun rolling dice as, say, me or Chris do? And it's okay if you don't. I'm just curious what your answer is.
I don't think so. I keep telling myself I like rolling dice, but at the end of the day, like I've played like miniature war games, I've played tabletop role RPGs, I've played like XCOM on the computer.
Plenty of dice rolling in, all that stuff.
Plenty of dice rolling. And I like the dice rolling, but the thing I like about dice rolling in games is making it so that the dice doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's my point.
That's my favorite part.
He likes the modifiers.
And in Lords of Vegas, dice matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's the heart of it.
He really likes the I like it as well. Modifiers, things that I get to re-roll that, or I can change that to the other side, like that moto
chaos
racing
versus control.
Yeah, and I like an even mix, right? I like the chaos of the die. I like adding control to it and manipulating it in my favor. And in Lords of Vegas, you don't really get to do that. You get to modify that. You can choose what chances you take to an extent.
But the dice is the dice.
You can't really add much control. All that to say, rolling dice is fun. I do enjoy it.
And yet you have not given us the number rating that you have for Lords of Vegas.
I haven't. I keep going back and forth in my head, but...
You want 2 dice, you can roll.
I could roll for it. And you know what? If I did roll 2 dice, they'd probably come up a 7.
So just call it a 7.
I'll call it a 7.
All
it's
right,
a solid 7.
All
well,
right.
I had a great time tonight, and I say we do another episode on Lords of Vegas next week.
Can we do the expansion?
Either that, or you know the other game I'd like to get on the table?
Ooh, say it, please, please.
El Grand.
Oh, gosh, I thought you were going to say Kingsburg with the expansion.
Well, we may be stuck playing racing games instead.
All right, we'll just bring out the heat next week.
No, I like playing new games. I like playing new games. I'm fine with that. I will play Kingsburg with the expansion.
Yeah, we're gonna hold off on Kingsburg with the expansion. We're gonna hold off on Lords of Vegas with the expansion because I do have the up expansion.
If you guys
we'll come back to those down the line.
If you tell me, Samuel, we're playing El Grand, I swear to you, I may not show up.
You may miss that week. Well, that's fair enough.
I'm just going to tell you right now, it's going to be over there ready
at some point.
And if 5 people show up to play games, That's what's happening.
Maybe we should invite 6.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Cody and Jeremy, come on over.
I have
We don't have any games to play 6.
never enjoyed El Grande. That time we played on
That's
board
because
games.
it's such a crazy luck fest.
Oh man, board
It's
game.
not even
At
though.
all. I know.
It's
That's
not
why it
at
floors me. It
all.
seems to me it's exactly the kind of
that
game
one
you would
time
love.
we played on Board Game Geek,
Board Game Arena.
right? Board Game Arena. I honestly, after like turn 2, I just pressed buttons until it told me it wasn't my
Wow.
turn
Yeah,
anymore.
Board Game
seems like-
Arena is not.
I just-
is
And that was
not the way
probably
to
the
play
best
El
you
Grande.
ever did at El Grande.
Yeah, I was going to say. It seems to me it's your kind of game. It's sort of
know.
funny, but,
It has-
that's how games
It
are.
has
Sometimes they
never
just don't ring the
clicked-
bell.
It has never clicked for me.
And honestly, playing it on Board Game Arena is such a disservice
Yeah, I agree.
to El Grande.
I agree.
Because it's a game where you need to see where people are putting things.
And
trying to watch that animation do it for you,
It's not the same.
it's not the same
and,
at all.
And you don't get that. I don't want to call it table talk because it's almost not table talk. It's while you're taking your turn, some other person at the table is kind of like doing the color guy, talking about what you're doing and saying, "Oh boy, I don't know. He's kind of leaving Steven open over there. You sure he wants to do
No,
that, Bob?"
let's get the real talk. Oh, Shank is screwing Steven. Everybody
Yes,
get on
right,
Shank.
exactly.
Well, I mean, that's how it goes.
You know who? Cody really likes El Grande.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's one of
He's
my
a smart
all-star
kid.
games too. So, all right, Lords of Vegas,
Lords of Vegas.
Wrap it
Lords
up.
of Vegas.
Ship it.
play it.
John, Chris, Sam, and I thank you for joining us in conversation about Lords of Vegas. You can join us in conversation by visiting our website, cellargames.com, where you can find links to our social media and Discord server. We also have a blog and a guild on Board Game Geek. We look forward to hearing from you.
Top of the list of 7.
Of 7.
It's a special reserve 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
That was
pulled
good.
that one out of my ass, and
That
I was
was
like,
good.
"Oh, this is gonna be a good one." when I walked back the rolling sevens, I was like, "Nope, I got a good one."
Oh, nice, nice, nice.